Good morning, friends. This is a video taken by one of my subscribers, Karen McCardle. I'll put a link to her channel in the description. And, this is taken in Edinburgh, Scotland, I believe. And you can see that they're doing cloud geoengineering everywhere, all over the world. Some countries do it more than others. Some states in the United States do it more than other states. In California, our sky doesn't make clouds at all. If they didn't do this, then we wouldn't have any clouds whatsoever. But you can see here, what this is here is a long stream of frozen ice crystals. I believe what they're doing here is they're burning silver iodide flares. And when they burn those flares, what happens is the silver iodide immediately freezes water vapor, similar to like how dry ice would automatically and immediately freeze things that come into contact with it. Now, I was in San Diego in 2013 or 2014, and they started doing this right above in the sky, covering the sky. This was just before Obama's visit to San Diego in 2013 or 14, before we had these massive wildfires happen. And when they covered the sky with this, they were doing it right over my head, and it looked like it was pretty low altitude, but it could have been high altitude. And I was terrified. When I first saw them doing this, I was so terrified. I literally fell over and fainted. I fainted and fell to the ground. I got post-traumatic stress disorder for some crap that happened to me when I was a kid. And when I saw this, it completely terrified me. And so I went and saw a doctor, and, after watching all the Fear Mason videos about chemtrails, and they did this whole battery of tests on me. They took my blood, my urine, my hair, my skin. They did a full battery of tests on me. And when I went back to get the tests, they told me there was no metals in my body. I was like in shock and disbelief. I'm like, no, that can't be. That can't be. I mean, there were two instances where these things dropped some kind of liquid on me. It didn't hit me, but I was in Sacramento, and this Coast Guard plane flew over me, really low altitude, like 2,000 feet, super low, and it dumped this reddish liquid out of it. And it looked like the kind of liquid that they dump on fires. But instead of the liquid falling and landing on the ground, it turned into a cloud immediately. And this happened twice. And it really freaked me out. So when my tests came back negative for any kind of metals, I was surprised and in disbelief. And in fact, I refused to believe it initially.
It's the old story of my mind is made up, don't confuse me with facts.
But silver iodide causes a chemical reaction. It causes water vapor to instantly freeze. And that's why you see these trails. They then form clouds, and they spread out and form giant, thick, massive clouds. Here's a cool experiment. If you take a tablespoon of, say, oil, cooking oil, olive oil, and you put it into a lake, that oil slick will spread out to about a half acre in size. And similar thing that's going on here is that when that silver iodide, as it spreads out across the sky, it freezes the water vapor that it comes into contact with. And depending on how much silver iodide they use and how much moisture is in the atmosphere, it can form rain clouds, or it can just form clouds.
Okay, so I just got on the lake, and there are a bunch of little tiny ripples from the wind. What I have here is just olive oil. Let's put it in. So it's been a couple minutes, and right around the boat, it seems like the oil has calmed all the waves. How could about a tablespoon of olive oil remove the waves from about half an acre of this lake? I'm Greg, and what the physics?
So I used to be really terrified and freaked out by chemtrails, but that faded away probably 6 months. Now I don't even look at them. Now I just like, I know what they are, but I know that it's possible that if you have your mind made up about something, that you can trick yourself, you can fool yourself. I think that the idea, like Richie from Boston says, that they're poisoning us, or Rachel Reacher says, are poisoning us. is uh, is really the imagination going a little too far. I don't think that's the intent of this at all. I think that they get off on the people that it creates fear in. I think they love that. That's part of the psyop, is to create fear into people. But I think it has a purely scientific purpose. And in fact, most of this is being done by private contractors. Ski resorts, for example, do this all day long in the wintertime to help increase the snowpack. But I took samples, water samples also during that 6 month period of time when I was terrified of chemtrails, and nothing, just nothing. I don't know what samples people are taking or where they're getting them. Maybe they live near a toxic waste site. I just don't know. I can't say. But I just know that the samples that I took from like rainwater and all of the medical tests that I had, there was nothing there. Which like I said, I was really disappointed. I refused to believe it at first. I'm like, you, how dare you tell me there's nothing wrong with my blood? After my test came back and I couldn't find metal anywhere in anything, I felt kind of foolish, and I felt ridiculous and silly. Actually, I was a little embarrassed by the paranoia I was feeling over this, and that's when I realized that that fear can create irrational conclusions and behavior. So, but if you have your mind made up about something, it can be hard to break that. But I look at things a little more rationally. I know our government does some pretty horrible things, and they have done some really terrible things in the past to unsuspecting people and to groups of people. But I think that this is pretty innocuous. I just don't see anything nefarious about it other than using it to create massive storms and destruction. I think that's what they have used it for. We've seen it. We've seen it with Hurricane Harvey. We've seen it with Katrina. We've seen it. I've seen it a lot of different ways that they've used geoengineering to create destruction. But you look at some of the principal players here who are pushing they're poisoning us. They're spraying heavy metal. Heavy metal would fall to the ground. Aluminum is lighter. It's a light metal. It's not a heavy metal. And there are certain byproducts of burning flares. There are toxic byproducts, but it's super, super minuscule. When you consider the amount of pollution generated by vehicles, if you live in the city, you're taking in pollution just from vehicles that are driving. I don't care how clean they are. So this is just really super innocuous as far as I'm concerned. You're entitled to your beliefs, but you see people who have created really nice lifestyles and are creating a living and a business out of this. And the only thing that they offer are T-shirts and mugs. That's it. That's their solution, is to buy T-shirts and mugs and to look up and to spread fear. They try to get other people to spread fear because it's a good business model for them. Now, that being said, there are people in the chemtrail community that I really like. I really love Dane Wigington. I think he's a great person, and I think he has tried to affect change, but I'm not so sure about the science involved in the chemtrailing. There's a lot of other ways that they could poison people rather than just blanket the sky. And, a plain truth says that this is aliens terraforming, but in the same breath, he says he believes in flat Earth. So you can't have both ways. You can't have aliens and a flat Earth. So there's just a lot of kookiness going on with some of these people that are spreading the propaganda, specifically like with Richie from Boston and A Plain Truth. But anyway, that is my chemtrail horror story about the time I saw chemtrails over my head and passed out. I literally fainted. I was so terrified. Now, I laugh in the face of chemtrails. In fact, I would wrestle a chemtrail. I would mud wrestle a chemtrail because I have no fear of them whatsoever. Anyway, that's all. Much love. See you soon.